If everyone could grab a seat, would be great. We'll start the meeting. Okay, if everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Rogers.
Present.
Trustee Reinders.
Present.
Trustee Pasmino.
Present.
Trustee Cancelino.
Present.
Trustee Fialco.
Present.
Trustee Laha.
Present.
Mayor Yukich.
Present. We did the roll call. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, sir, there are.
Okay.
One, I'd like to change number 2. I-2, as far as I know, can be removed from the agenda because it's not necessary. The motion to reconsider is something that would be done if it was something other than a veto, and then it would be a motion to reconsider at that time during the same meeting. And the case study behind it is actually Ketcher, Mark, and Lynch from March 4th, 1969. If you could help me out here, Kerry, please.
Yes. Members of the village board, by the way, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Kerry Horvath. I'm the author of the Olson Sturt, Northeast Racer, and Trap. You were kind enough to appoint us as legislative counsel. I wanted to just inform you at this point in time, Trustee Pasmino was telling you is that when there is a veto and then a motion to override the veto is placed on the agenda, as it should have been in this particular instance, all that is necessary in accordance with the appellate court decision in Ketchmark versus Lynch, which is an appellate court decision that's been long-standing since 1969. All that is necessary is essentially a motion to pass the ordinance over the veto of the mayor. So the proper motion to have been placed on the agenda would have been the motion which I believe Trustee Pasmino posited with the interim village manager on Wednesday the 15th. And that is a motion to override the mayor's veto and approve as originally adopted Ordinance 21-034, which is titled an ordinance granting a variance to reduce the side yard setback for a patio and fireplace from the required 10 feet to 6 feet to certain real property located in the R5 single-family residential district at 13161 Woodland Drive, Homer Glen, Illinois. Case HG 2114. There is no need to have a formal motion to reconsider because you have already adopted the ordinance. It was vetoed. It's now before this board on a motion to override, which is necessarily a reconsideration. Your rules do not require anything else. The appellate court does not require anything else. And I'll make a final statement. The appellate court, in its decision, stated a case from 2016, which set forth that this type of procedure is appropriate, and that formal motions to reconsider after a mayoral veto are simply unnecessary. So given that, I think the proper motion at this point in time is to replace 2 and 3 on your agenda. Is the motion which I have just stated, and the agenda should be amended accordingly.
And you're speaking in regards to Trustee Pasmino's email on Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. Also, the motion to override the mayor's veto, not consideration for approval.
Pardon?
We're specifically talking about Trustee Pasmino's email from Wednesday, September 15th, 2021 at 2:41 p.m. that it was to say the motion to override the mayor's veto, and approve as originally adopted ordinance 21-034.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, before we go on, I'd like to say, I want to drop my, withdraw my veto. And reason being is, it's already done, so you're not going to be able to get some things changed. But here's what everyone has to understand. In a situation like this, giving variances to the village code without a legitimate hardship makes enforcement and compliance with the code difficult for the planning commission, the engineering, and the building departments. Residents who follow village code regulations and adhere to permitting requirements express a feeling of inequality when projects are subject to permit application, review, and insurance. There are legal infrastructure and staff enforcement costs associated with the village code violators. Pending litigation regarding code violations which affect the drainage and flooding. And the problem that we have on this right now is we've already had two come before us that was the same thing. They did not have permission to do it, so they went ahead and did it anyhow, and then they come back and they want to beg for forgiveness. The problem that you have on it is with the two that we've already turned down, we spent how much money? Maybe 50K?
Close to it.
All right, $50,000, that came out of taxpayers' money. So all we're trying to say is just do the right thing on it. He's asking for a variance on something that he doesn't have a hardship. So now with that being done, and we're allowing him to do it, all the people that can have something that they want to do, well, let's go ahead and do it, and then I'll beg for forgiveness, and then we're going to be starting over again, and then the village just kind of loses control of everything.
So at this point,
Wait, let me finish with what I'm saying. No one interrupted you before. Let's just.
I wasn't finished actually, but go ahead.
Okay. Right now, money has to come in for what we have to get done. We don't want to be suing people. We don't want to take this to court. We're trying to save the people money. And in cases like this, we're not saving them money. You're just letting someone get away with it because they didn't want to go get a permit. This was a real simple thing to do. He didn't want to do that. That's why he came in afterwards and asked for it. So all I'm saying is that what's happening tonight is costing the village money because we have to pay for law firms, we have to pay for everything else that shouldn't be part of it. It's a real simple thing. They have an ordinance of what to do and how to do it, and it wasn't done. So it shouldn't be the way it is right now. And now I am done.
All right, thank you. With that said, Legislative Counsel, Carrie, can we do that, or do we still have to make the motion and go through the proper motion to make it to adopt the override of the veto?
We have to follow the procedure and make a motion to override the veto so that you have, if you determine to override it, you've done it properly.
So we still have to go
With
through.
respect to the mayor, he followed the law in vetoing the ordinance. He posited with this board. This board now should act on the motion to override if it chooses to do so. But you should vote on it. You can't, I don't believe the mayor can just withdraw his veto and eliminate the effect of the veto itself.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any provision under the law allowing for that. So I would say that I don't care how you vote on the motion, but you should have the motion.
Okay, and discussion will come at that time then too from all of us. So that would be the end for me as far as making amendments to the agenda. Thank you, sir.
If I can ask for clarification, Trustee Fialko, you had asked to remove I2, but Attorney Horvath had stated I2 and I3. Is that correct, or just I2?
2 and 3 would be removed and replaced by the motion to override and adopt approve the ordinance as written.
This was the email that was sent by Trustee Pazmino.
Right,
That's how
I
it's
did
to read?
receive this, right.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure for your motion purposes that it's I2 and I3.
We're removing I2 and I3, but 3 will be replaced with the verbiage from,
2 and 3 will be replaced with this motion.
Okay.
You don't have to vote again on the ordinance itself. The motion to override the mayor's veto and approved as originally adopted, the ordinance covers the matter in its entirety. All right? You don't have to vote again to approve the ordinance once again. You've already done that. You're overriding, if you vote to override, you're overriding the action of the mayor.
Okay, do we need to have any, do we have to vote on this at all by removing 2 and 3 and adding that?
Probably should.
Just-
You're amending the agenda.
Amending it is fine, there doesn't have to be a vote.
There has to be a vote on the amendment to the agenda.
You're moving to amend the agenda, yes.
Right, so, okay.
Yes.
Would that take place now or when we get to that item?
Suggest you do that.
Okay.
Trustee Fialko's motion is to remove I2 and I3 and replace it with the motion to override the mayor's veto and approval as originally adopted in Ordinance 21-034 entitled, "An Ordinance Granting a Variance to Reduce the Side Yard Setback for a Patio and Fireplace from required 10 feet to 6 feet for certain real property located in R5 Single Family Residential District at 13161 Woodland Drive, Homer Glen, Illinois, case HG 2114V."
We need a second.
Second.
Right, I'm just reiterating his motion since there was some confusion. You,
Oh, you're using that, okay. I guess I made the first and
Then
Ruben made the
Trustee
second.
Pazino just made the second.
Right.
So any other discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
1 second, please.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Fialko.
Aye?
Trustee Pazmino.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
No.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Laha.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, as far as myself and amendments to the agenda, I'm complete, sir. I don't know if anybody else has any amendments, so.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes from July 28th, 2021 Village Board meeting?
So move.
Second?
Reuters. Trustee Fialko. Has anyone got any comments on the minutes? We have the motion and we have the second.
Trustee Pazmino, I know you had reached out to me earlier. However, these were not my minutes as I was not here that day. I don't know what correction it was. Did those happen to be changed?
Yes. So, well, do you want me to give you the change now?
Is it reflected in these minutes?
It is reflected in the packet I was given.
Okay, that's all the questions I had.
All right, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion, ayes have it, motion carries. Reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I'll start it off. Follows a busy season in Homer Glen with many family activities for residents to enjoy. The Fall Farm Fests are in full swing with thousands of visitors each week. Please drive with extra caution due to the increased traffic and pedestrians. Take time to enjoy the full season in Homer Glen. Next, we'll start with Trustee Consolino.
Good evening, Homer Glen. Homer Township hosted a very thoughtful commemoration in honor of the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We had a few speakers who represented the village, like myself and Chief Lacacious. Trustee Fialko and Trustee Loha both assisted in donating efforts to this memorial, and I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Supervisor Balich, the Homer Township Board, and the HTR for enabling us to have the ceremony. Our village will also be hosting public land days and conducting a village-wide cleanup for the week of October 4th through the 10th. We'll have gloves, grabbers, and trash bags available at the Village Hall that week for anyone looking to participate, and we are asking for those who help to please send photos so that we can invite you to a celebratory awards party at the village later on this month. In reference to all the shenanigans that occurred during our last board meeting, I'm stating on the dais and for the record, incorrect advice was given by our village attorney during our last board meeting. Eric Hansen stated that the board must make and consider a motion to reconsider before we could vote on a veto. And this was not true, as our attorney, Mr. Horvath, pointed out. procedure that we went through at the September 8th meeting was entirely unnecessary and allowed for the village attorney to get a motion to amend the original ordinance to be made and to be considered. And I would like to remind everyone in the village attorney is not a trustee or a voting board member on this dais. And here is just another reason why this board needs to have an impartial and parliamentary certified attorney to protect this village's interests. In regard to the mayor's abuse of using our public comment time to speak at the podium, does not dignify a response from me. He was so pompous that he even spoke over the 3-minute time limit. He did not do this to speak on behalf of our residents as he said he was. And he did this simply because it was the only way that he could publicly bash me without being legally censured. I think it's also necessary to inform those who don't know this, but the mayor only gets to vote as a tiebreaker. He also has the authority to veto, and we have the authority to override the veto. Every time the mayor gives his vote and his comments on how disgusted he is on how we are voting, he is only giving you his opinion. I would also like to give a rebuttal on a statement that Trustee Beth Rogers gave during the last board meeting. She stated on the record that she has never fired anyone from a committee. However, I received testimony from 2 residents after that meeting who both stated to me that she has fired them from the Parks and Rec committees in the past. On a more informative note, and as a fiduciary for this village, I would like to brief everyone all of our taxpayers and how their money is being spent by the village. I had to FOIA our own village staff this week and our attorney for information that they refused to provide for me when I requested it numerous times. This is information that I'm entitled to by law as a publicly elected official of this board. This information includes detailed billing and proof of product for services that our village attorney, Eric Hansen, and his firm outsourced from September 2020 through April 2021 to the firm by the name of Seraphin and Associates. These services were paid and billed to us at $4,000 an invoice, and they only stated miscellaneous fees. Our village attorney and his firm allegedly used them for media for our Public Works Department. I'd like our tax-paying residents to know that Seraphin and Associates, Inc. are a public affairs consultant who specialize in politics and media. The Chicago-based firm specializes in crisis communication. Won't it be interesting to find out what exactly our village and our village attorney spent thousands of your tax-paying dollars on with this firm? Stay tuned, Homer Glen. There's plenty more to come. I'm done.
I wish. Trustee Laha.
Okay. I am going to start with reporting on the Parks Committee. Rose and I are sharing this report, so whatever I don't cover, she's going to pick it up because we talked about quite a bit at this Parks meeting. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee members and the residents that came to this last Parks meeting and spoke about it and expressed their concerns and their opinions. I think it was really important and valuable to us, so I want to thank you for that. First, we have a little lending library that's going to be coming to Heritage Park from the library. The committee was unanimously in favor of that. Yes. An update with Stonebridge tennis courts. There has been a request for relining of these tennis courts. Superintendent Robinson reported that he's still having a hard time securing a contract for this work. Per village policy, we need 3 bids, and so far he's only been able to get 1. Since this is weather dependent, he said we may have to put this off till next season. We have some events coming up. We have Spooky Park, the Scarecrow Walk, Trunk or Treat, and Rose and I are really excited to be working with Amy and Sue for Homer for the Holidays. We think it's going to be really nice and an exciting event, so we're excited for that. Rose will also be talking a little bit later in the agenda about the Parks and Public Works situation, as well as the township, and that comes later on in the discussion. So we have some good feedback from our committee on that, so thank you for that. I am going to move on to the Ability Awareness Committee. our report for the community survey. Some of the results have come back. So far, we've had 195 residents take the survey, so I really want to thank you for that. It's been amazing feedback. I've taken time to read about maybe half of them, but we're going to keep going through it. 40% of the residents think the village is doing an excellent or good job with different ability services. 26 of the respondents think the village is doing a fair job, and 33% of the respondents think the village needs improvement. The highest ranked service that people are looking for is all-inclusive activities and events, but accessible parks was a very close second. In terms of categories that are needed within each group, the response was fairly even, but when it came to seniors, that really stood out. Senior services is definitely on people's list. Transportation was a huge need, with 94% of the respondents choosing transportation for seniors as a need here in Homer Glen. The volunteer sign-up is still working, and 13% of the people who took the survey would like to volunteer for the Ability Awareness Committee. So I just want to thank you for taking that. This survey is going to be up indefinitely, so it's not going to have a time limit. So please continue to submit your comments and concerns, and I'm going through them as well as the committee individually to make sure that they're read and heard. So thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Lahat. Trustee Rogers.
No report.
Thank you. Trustee Pasmino.
Thank you, sir. Reporting for the Environment Committee, I wanted to remind folks that the Residential Electronics and Hazardous Waste Drop-Off event is this Saturday, September 25th. The Will County event will allow residents to dispose by drop-off all type of electronics and household chemicals, hazardous materials, and liquids. In order to participate, you are required to register via willcountygreen.com or simply log on to the village website, www.homerglenil.org. You can also find the link on there as well. Both of these sites will provide a way for you to sign up and will also advise you of what can be disposed and what cannot. Please note that the drop-off site will not be disclosed until you are registered for an appointment via these websites. I also wanted to remind the residents of our Stargazing event at Heritage Park on Friday, October 1st. Experience and celebrate our dark sky by spending an evening with the stars. This event will take place at the Village Hall and is coordinated by the Homer Glen Environment Committee with the assistance of the Homer Glen Emergency Management Agency. A special thanks to Kankakee Area Stargazers, the Naperville Astronomical Association, and the Southwest Astronomy Observers Group. Amateur astronomers from these groups will have their large telescopes available for free viewing. Viewing will start at dusk, and as always, please log on to homerglenil.org for more information. And sir, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Reinders.
Mayor, I would like to reserve my time for our discussion because a lot of the things that we did talk about over in the Parks Committee this Monday was basically a lot of the things that we're going to be discussing in discussion. So I would like to reserve my time for that time.
That's fine. You don't have to worry about time. You can-
Okay.
you
I would
can-
just like to bring that up in discussion.
Trustee Fialko.
All right. What I'd like to say is in A&F, in our meeting, there is a discussion about replacing the Village Hall roof here. 6 years ago, I guess certain portions of the roof had been taken care of, and then certain parts of the roof had not. We had it under discussion one meeting before that, but now we've collectively thought that the best idea would be to go to a consultant who Joe Baber recommended, that he knew of the firm that has done this a lot in the past. And it's all to be able to save money and to get actually a review of what's going on with the roof, because supposedly there might be a leak in one spot or another. But anyway, the plan is to replace the roof on the Village Hall to some degree once that information comes through. The other thing is, during the A&F meeting, we were asked to approve a payment, to Austin Tyler Construction for the Heritage Park cul-de-sac in Sled Hill, which we did not, at that moment, have the grant money. We had not received the grant money yet. So we tabled that item, and also we were asked to put in for the amount of $2,800.80 for the observation services of TRIA Architect. We also tabled that item for the same reason. So the thought was, we're not going to spend money or write a check for something that we haven't received yet. And the two things we haven't received yet were, one, the grant money for the project, and two, we had not even put a shovel in the ground. So that is my report, sir.
Thank you, Trustee Fialko. Village Clerk.
I have no report, thank you.
Thank you. Village Attorney number 1.
No report, Your Honor.
Village Attorney number 2.
I have not anything to report, thank you.
Thank you. Public safety officials.
I'll make it quick, Your Honor. This past Thursday, along with the market in the Glen, there was a public safety day, and along with the fire departments, EMA, I know state police was out here as well. We had a great time, so I thought it was a great event. It's always great to mix with mingle with the public, especially our little kids. That's the best. So it was a great event. So to everyone who organized it, Sue, Amy, and the like, thank you very much. On a side note, I had to miss my son's game. He just scored his first touchdown, so I'm very proud. That's all I got. Thanks.
Interim Village Manager.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Next is public comment. If you could keep it to 3 minutes, it would be wonderful. Do we have a... Okay. Thanks, Joe. Andrew, you've got the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Name is Andrew Rodriguero. I live on 12135 White Pine Trail here in Homer Glen. Currently the HAC president. A couple of board members were able to make it this evening. A couple others are busy coaching their travel softball teams. I just wanted to come tonight basically to introduce myself, make myself available for any questions you may have tonight or moving forward. I also wanted to just kind of explain, like I did on Monday night at the Parks and Rec meeting, what it is Homer Athletic Club actually does back here for the sports complex for this particular park. I don't have to waste any of my time talking about how important parks are to the neighborhoods and the communities which they sit in. I think the sports park obviously adds an additional service to the community with youth sports. I know the Stallions obviously do the same thing back there. Homer Athletic Club's been around since 1959, servicing the community. Those ball fields back there, the baseball fields, I believe are somewhere around 25, 30 years old. And like a house that's that age, it needs a little bit of TLC each and every year. We're a non-for-profit. We were pretty large in the early 2000s. We've shrunk down a little bit as far as our memberships are concerned with all the competition of the other sports groups that have moved into the general area. Everything's travel from volleyball to baseball to softball. So we are really main focused is our recreational sports, kindergarten through 8th grade. And our main focus is to really stay community central, service the community and the boys and girls here. So in the fall and winter, we play basketball and volleyball. We partnership in the winter with 33C, and we use their gymnasiums. But in the summertime, from the time the grass starts to grow until it's done growing, we take care of the grass cutting and every other repair and maintenance in between during the months of roughly April through the end of October. If the lights are on, we're paying for the light bill. If the water's on in the concession stand, we're paying for the water bill. If the lights are on, we're paying the electric bill. The only thing time to time that we need assistance with any type of capital expenditures that may come up. But as far as everyday repair and maintenance, even the vandalism that happens during the winter, each and every winter and during the summer, we've taken care of and repaired that ourselves.
You do have 30 seconds.
So, I just wanted to let everyone know that that's what we do back there. In addition to offering what I feel is a valuable service for any community, and as well as with the Stallions, and that's a youth sports program that's committed to the youth of the community. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Thanks, Andrew.
Mr. Rodriguero, is it possible for you to stick around for the park segment? That way, in case we have any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next would be Anita Moorhead. Kevin Coco? Not sure. Did I kill your name?
No, it's Coco. I just wanted to say I spoke a couple weeks ago and about 15058 West 143rd Street and Casey, the neighboring property. We have not had any other complaints or harassment since that meeting, so I thank you for that, if anything was done on your part up until to this point. But we were supposed to have a meeting. I called the township and tried to schedule that meeting a few times. I haven't heard anything back. I just wanted to say, can we still schedule that meeting?
Quick question. You talked to the township or you talked to the village?
I called the village. I left a message with Mr. Walsh, I believe.
Matt, do you have anything on that?
I must have missed that message. I'll give you a call tomorrow morning and set something up.
Okay, fantastic.
Sorry about that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, then the next one will be Roy Adcock.
How you doing? Figured I might as well start coming to these meetings because we're all going to be together here soon with this road district. But I really wasn't going to speak tonight, but I come because of the humor that's going on here. It amazes me how, I think it was a couple weeks ago, I seen everybody came up and they seemed like they were all going to bury the hatchet between all of you guys. And I feel like I'm at some of these other community meetings here. I thought you guys buried the hatchet, but it seems like it hasn't. And when you guys give your trustees, I listened to every one of the trustees' reports, and I'm speaking because even though I'm in Homer Township, but we're all going to be together here soon, so Homer Township's going to, you guys are taking us over, so. But as trustees, every trustee up there gave their report on whatever their committee was. It was so amazing. And you guys did a wonderful job, by the way. But some of you up there decided to use that as sound like it was a campaign stomping ground. I don't know what you guys want to do about that, but I thought a trustee's report was reporting on what you did as a trustee for your committee. So just thought I'd mention that to you. I mean, I'm going to be up here now. You're going to start seeing a lot more of me, and I'll be up here speaking, because if you're going to use it as a campaigning event and calling each other out, boy, you're going to see a lot more of me up here, and I look forward to seeing y'all every meeting. So look forward to it. Have fun, folks.
Thanks, Roy.
See more of you.
Okay, that's it for public comment. Next, we have the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. Is there a motion to approve the following items? 1, the accounts payable for the period of September 10th, 2021 through September 23rd, 2021 in the amount of $940,366.37. And second is the treasurer's report on cash and investments for the period ending August 31st, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Rogers?
Second.
Trustee Renders?
Render, she could do it.
Yep. Ladies first.
That's what I said.
Okay, discussion. I guess there's none. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. So legislation and action items. Is there a motion to approve the appointment of Chris Chappetta to the Environmental Committee?
So move.
Second.
Pasmino. Who was second?
Yeah.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir, I have something quick to say, if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Chappetta has been a resident in Homer Glen for over 20 years. His input and ideas within the past few meetings have proven to be invaluable, and I hope that the board accepts his application to be member of our wonderful Environment Committee. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Fielko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye for it. It's nice to know some of the residents are coming forward to get on some of these committees.
Agree. That's nice.
Christina? Could you read, yes, number 4? Or wait,
Come back.
yeah.
Dan, can
you
you
put
that paper back?
Yes, hold on one second, please.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
So the motion is to override the mayor's veto and approve as originally adopted ordinance 21-034 entitled an ordinance granting a variance to reduce the side yard setback for a patio and fireplace from the required 10 feet to 6 feet for certain real property located in R5 Single Family Residential District at 13161 Woodland Drive, Homer Glen, Illinois, case HD 2114V.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I didn't get this email, so I haven't seen it.
I couldn't hear what you said.
I didn't get the email, so I haven't seen this motion that you're proposing.
You read it in its entirety, correct? Did you want to see a copy of it?
Yes.
While that's being read, what I'd like to say in discussion here, there's two separate ways to look at this, and I've spent a lot of time on this one. First, the resident, like all of us as residents, we're not sure exactly what we need permits for. And when we would start doing something, or any resident that's sitting in this room, if you start doing a project and you weren't sure, you'd think, well, I didn't need a permit to do this. And then you find out later on that you did. What the village does is charges you 3 times the amount of what the permit would be. Now, if it's a builder, it's a different situation. If it's a builder, the builder should know what's expected of them, and therefore the conditions or what may follow after that may be a little different. What happened with this resident who pays taxes on all of his property to the fence and all the way to the back, I don't think there's any variance on the taxes, so that the customer or the resident there is paying taxes on that full piece of property. They asked for a variance because what had happened there is they started their project of building the patio, building the fireplace. It's not a fire pit, it's a fireplace. Dave Bricker signed off on it, the fire department thought it was okay, and all of us thought it was okay also. Matter of fact, it took a 2/3 vote because the planning commission weren't sure they were okay with it. So we had the 2/3 vote at that time, and with this resident, what they did is they had to pay $575 to go to the planning commission. Now, this is something, to me, is amazing that the fees are so high for that. And that's at the low end. There are other things that cost more money than that. So with that said, and the one that we had a couple weeks ago for a shed, the guy didn't even get a shovel in the ground, and going to the planning commission cost him $450. So let's roll back to today, though. So this resident who pays taxes on all of his property to the fence line was asking for a variance of it was from 6 to 4 feet, correct, Joe? Or 10 to 6? 10 to 6, okay. So that's all we were voting on, was to give that resident the variance to enjoy his property with a little patio and a little fireplace. Now, if this was a contractor that did this, it would be a different story. But in this case, a resident who, again, pays their taxes to the fence lines, I understand we do have ordinances, but a couple meetings ago, the mayor had said himself and another trustee that our ordinances and our village code is very complicated and it's cumbersome on the residents. So with that said, with this, we kind of dotted our I's and crossed our T's and did everything we had to do here. This resident has taken and paid $575 for planning commission. Planning commission is done with the situation, so it did go to planning commission, and now it came to us. So we took a look at it, and being that they paid $575, it's almost like a penalty in a way to be able to do that. And yes, they didn't get the permit at first, but there's been things that I'm sure a lot of people in this village didn't know they were supposed to get a permit for. So being a little kind to our residents and a little bit of forgiveness for that, with that said, we did not charge them 3 times, as far as I know from the building department, we did not charge them 3 times the building permit, and they had their reason for that. And the part of that reason, I believe, was they spent $575 at the planning commission to get that looked at. So as far as we're wasting money, the only thing we're wasting money on is creating vetoes for something like this. That's a waste of money. So that is my comments.
I have a question. I think you're right, Dan, on giving some grace to our community members who are paying taxes. From my understanding, the problem wasn't necessarily the process they had to go through. I thought the problem was the fact that they started the work without the permit, and which is a mistake, right? We all can, we need permits to do those things, and I'm sure, when you do things like that, you're not sure, but if that's what the veto was.
No, the veto wasn't on it. The veto, we only, we agreed to the variance.
Right.
We weren't agreeing.
We didn't, because we weren't part of, with the initial part. Right.
That's the building department. We only put through the variance. That's
Right.
all we did. It changed it from 10 to 6 feet.
Okay.
So it was not.
I just wanted clarification on that.
Keep in mind that he had residents, he got more than he needed as far as from the residents, including the resident to the east, signed a letter and said that they were all okay with it.
Yeah, no, I remember that. It was just more,
It wasn't about the permit.
Okay.
It was only about the variance, and that's what it still is right now. We're overriding the variance.
That's exactly what clarification I wanted. Yeah, thank you.
But there was still, how many of you talked to the plan commission or read the plan commission's ideas of what was going to happen?
I did.
I did.
You all read it?
I did.
All right, and where did it come up that it should be approved?
It wasn't.
The variance should be approved when there was no hardship whatsoever.
They didn't agree themselves. So now it comes to us. And we agreed with the resident who pays the taxes. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, and like I said before, if that's the case, there's going to be a lot more people, I didn't know. I didn't know, so, I shouldn't be paying for anything.
Sir,
what you got to understand, I didn't interrupt you, don't interrupt me. The way it works is everyone knows. A lot of them don't want to go in because they figure they can get something done under the wire. And I'm sure everyone's done something that you could. We don't charge a municipal tax. We've got one on it, unfortunately, right now because of the road district, but hopefully that's gone after this year. But that's how the village pays for everything. And you've got Joe over there, you've got Mike over there, you've got all these people that work for the village. How do we pay them if we're not collecting funds from anyone for what they're doing for the village? They're making sure that everything is done correctly in the village. And if you take that away from them and you take away the money all the time, that's, well, here, you seem like a good guy. Don't worry about the money. We'll get it for you. The variances, don't worry. We'll get it for you. Everyone's going to want it. You open up the gate, they're going to walk through. There was no hardship on this one. He should have come in. It's easier to ask for, I'm sorry, but We have to go back to what the ordinance says. The ordinance says that that's what you have to do. You have to get a variance, and a variance does not fall in place unless it's a hardship. And I don't see how there was any hardship at all.
We have had variances almost at every meeting we have had, and not every variance falls under the hardship. You yourself said at a meeting 2 meetings ago that our ordinances and the things that the village is working under is when it comes to the residents and builders are a little too stringent. And so you thought that we need to re-look at them. So being that you said that, I thought this kind of fell in line with your comments that you made 2 meetings ago. And as far as the permit, we know that they didn't get a permit. We only granted the variance. As far as the permit and how that fee was being paid, goes through Joe Baber. How they handle that is their business. We're not getting involved in that business. We're only getting involved in the variance. And being that that taxpayer pays his taxes all the way to the lot line, and you had said yourself that our ordinances and our village code are a little too stringent, we need to relook at them. This kind of fits into that category to help out the resident who pays the high taxes.
Dan, everyone in this village pays them from border to border,
Understood.
from fence to fence. It's no
Understood.
difference. You can't make excuses for something that shouldn't have happened.
There has not been one meeting that I can remember that we have not had a variance come before us. And then if that's the case, why do variances go in front of the Planning Commission at all? And for $575?
Because what do you want them to do? Just say,
Well,
go ahead,
if you're
whatever you want to
saying,
do, build.
if you're saying that we have to go strictly by the code, then it shouldn't go to the Planning Commission for $575.
It should go to the Planning Commission. That's the one who goes over this to make sure everything is right,
Yes.
to see if it's feasible.
But you just said that they should all go by strictly by the code. But then you might as well not go to the Planning Commission, right? They paid $575. I think they have done everything they could possibly do to be able to enjoy a little patio and a little fireplace in their
And
backyard.
if it was a next door neighbor, they would have had to pay it too, and if it was a next door neighbor after that, they'd have to pay it.
All right. Anyway, I'm through with my comments, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion on it? Madam Clerk, well,
Yeah.
all right, call the roll, please.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Falco?
Aye?
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
No.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 21-032, an ordinance establishing the Commercial Building Improvement Grant Program?
So moved.
Trustee
Second.
Laha, or who was it? Trustee Consolino?
I would like to make a motion to amend, if that's okay, Trustee Laha, you made the motion, right? Or
I'm good with that.
Trustee Castellino, I'd like to make a motion to amend
Go
a
ahead.
few things here. And I'm actually looking for help with this one because,
Before we get, I don't know if there was there a second?
there will,
Second.
I just want to make sure.
You second?
Yeah, Nicole
Okay.
did.
Trustee Lahad.
Nicole, yeah.
Thank you.
I thought, yeah,
Actually, my mic was off, so.
that's okay.
okay,
Jamie can explain some of it, because we addressed all of your concerns.
yes, but some of these are not. Here's what I'd like to ask first, Janie. We've got this separated. One, we have the item number I-4, but then we also have the agreement starting after the ordinance packet portion itself. And there's some items in there that I'd actually like to make the motion to amend, if we could go through them. Carrie, could you help us out? Are we able to do that? I mean, we've actually got the item number, I-4, but then we have the program description. And it's in the program description that there are some things I'd like to address, to amend.
Okay.
We can do that without it being physically drawn into
You want to
I-4?
amend something that's within the ordinance itself?
No, the ordinance doesn't specifically name the program description and everything that's in it. The program description is separate from the actual ordinance, which briefly addresses a few things. I'm specifically talking about the program description itself, and that's kind of like what we're voting on I-4 though.
Is Exhibit A. Yeah, the ordinance mentions Exhibit A as the program description, and that's included as the ordinance. So you'll notice as the final whereas describes the program as Exhibit A. and
Okay,
that's the-
so we're okay with, I just want to make sure that we're okay, because it doesn't say Exhibit A on the top of that. Oh, on the page before it, it does. Okay, so what I'd like to take a look at, if we go to the program description, and we take a look at bullet number 4 at the bottom, I would like it, instead of to say window and door replacement, I would like it to say visible from the street and part of the facade. Because obviously there can be windows on the back side of a building or on the side of a building there can be doors. We want to specifically make sure that it's addressing the issue, which would be the facade of the building. So it would say basically window and door replacement visible from the street / facade.
I don't necessarily agree with that because there are buildings in our community where the perfect example is the building over there. The back is visible from a ring road. There are buildings in town that the backs are just as important and the sides are just as important as the front. And a perfect example, and I hope this is okay, would be Tazo's, because
Exactly, yeah.
she has a really nice side yard area there, and then that whole back is totally exposed. And there's often times where work needs to be done in the back.
I would agree with that, but actually this grant process is under background information, specifically says commercial building improvements to facades, not the side or back of the building. So I thought in being that there's a limited amount of money for this project or for this grant, for those that want to replace all the windows and buildings around the whole perimeter, really doesn't fall under the facade of a building. So that's why I wanted to amend that to make it say the facade visible from, windows and door replacement on the facade of the building.
But Dan, you have to understand, in my situation, in the strip mall, there's always the corner store. And on the corner store, it's visible from 3 sides.
And drive-throughs?
And we actually have a back drive and a front drive and a side drive. So anything that would be visible, I think should pertain to that, because that's just as important, because people are driving past both sides. They're all 3 sides. So we have windows and doors on 3 sides.
Melissa, did you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted to clarify that off-place architecture facades can be referred to any side of the building.
Exactly.
So if you want to say that, Dan, I would just suggest saying front facade. And then also, I was just going to recommend in our sign code, we did visible, and I think it was from a right-of-way or from a private circulation, so that the drive-through area, the parking lots that are within private commercial developments would also be counted for like wall signage. So
Right.
you could do something like that instead, or like your situation.
And we do have signs on all 3 sides. Yeah.
So what would be your suggestion is the verbiage for that then? To leave it as such?
I don't have a copy.
Okay, all right, so, I mean, that update and everybody's input with that, that makes sense, so we could leave that. The next one that I'd like to take a look at is ineligible improvements, to basically where general is crossed out, it's the second bullet down, to cross out facade improvements, and just have it where it says flat roofs or other work not visible from a public right-of-way.
Well, the reason for having facade improvements in there would be that there could be
A mansard roof.
projects that a building owner might want to bring forward, but they don't happen to be visible from the public right-of-way.
Yeah, but this is under
qualifier.
ineligible.
Right. And so if the facade improvement is not visible from the public right-of-way, it would not be eligible. And to further clarify it, because the question had come up, that would also include flat roofs.
Well, then shouldn't it say facade improvements too?
It does. It says facade improvements,
flat roofs, or other work not visible from the public right-of-way would all be ineligible.
Okay. I still think it should, okay. Facade improvements. Again, the facade is where we want to be able to have the improvements, where it's under ineligible. The flat roofs and the other work not visible is what we don't want in there.
Right.
If this facade, if you can't see the facade from the public right-of-way, it doesn't qualify.
Right. So whatever is in the eligible section, the corresponding part of it needs to be in the ineligible, just to clarify it. So under eligible improvements, facade improvements that are visible from the public right-of-way are okay, whereas facade improvements that are not visible from the public right-of-way are ineligible. It's just making it eminently clear.
I think that that kind of helps you with your first concern over whether, if you can't see it, it shouldn't be fixed. So I'm trying to think of an example. Maybe the Jewels Shopping Center, the public doesn't have access to that back. So if they wanted to do something in that back, they would not qualify. So that kind of helps you with your first concern.
And they may have a project where they're going to do the entire building, maybe, I don't know, tuck pointing or something, and we would say we would handle the 3 sides that are visible from the public right-of-way, but the percent of your project that's on the back side not visible from a public right-of-way, we won't facilitate that one, that portion of it.
All right.
So that's what the intent of the wording is meant.
All right, so the consensus is we think we should leave that as it is, per how you just explained it. Makes sense. So let's move on to the grant approval process for number 9. It says grant reimbursements are made after review of post-projection documentation and confirmation of project completion according to the grant details. What I would like to see in there is that we grandfather it back to January 1st, 2021, only because we had a grant program out here, or we had a loan program out here that nobody took advantage of. So being that there may have been businesses that were interested in doing work back then, but weren't interested in the loan, but may have been interested in the grant program, I'd like to actually amend it by adding that we would grandfather any request back from January 1st, 2021.
But the budget only came out in May, and the money was only appropriated from May, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's.
Well, it'd have to go back to May then. What is the exact day in May?
When do we pass the budget? May 3rd?
Well, May 1st is when the budget
May 1st?
is effective.
May 1st?
Okay, I think that would even help if we made it May 1st, 2021. Are we all in agreement on?
So you mean make it retroactive?
Make it retroactive or grandfathered in from May 1st, 2021.
Trustee Fialko, is it the same type of grant? Is that what you're referring to? And you're just pushing back the dates, so then they'd be eligible for that? Is that what you mean?
Right, if they would have, yeah.
If they would have applied, okay.
So if they have done a project, and I'm not sure if it would be the start of the project or the completion of the project. We had no program for them to apply towards in the past, but there have been some recent renovations out there that had this program been in place, they could potentially have been applicants. So are you saying if they did a project in this fiscal year, they could be invited to come and get funds in arrears, basically?
Yes. Well, that would be up to your discretion, obviously, as to what would fit into that category.
We would
going back
absolutely
to that
follow the
date.
program structure, so that's what we're looking for, is a structure acceptable to the board, so that we're not making discretionary decisions about what should be in and what should be out.
Well, depending on what their project was. I mean, they have to apply for this grant, and it has to meet your criteria. So if somebody back to May 1st, 2021 met your criteria and they want to try to apply for it, obviously they would be able to try to apply for it. If it fits your criteria, then you would be able to then help them out with providing that grant money.
So then I guess if we're going to use the May 1st as a marker, I think we need to clarify, I would suggest that we clarify, is it the project gets a building permit? after May 1st, between May 1st and now, if they received a building permit for a project that could have been eligible, we can go back to those businesses or owners and say, we've passed this program and you are invited to apply. We could
I think that would be great.
do that. They would need to be able to provide all of the documentation.
Right.
I'm just trying to think ahead on the spot here, because we have all these submittal requirements, so.
I don't think the submittal requirement should change. They would just have to provide you with what you wanted to be able to
Right. I'm just.
progress with the application.
If they're able to meet the submittal requirements.
Yes.
Then we could entertain an application.
You could say that if eligible, if grants would be, the grants would be eligible if their permit was received after May 1. They could apply and those projects would be eligible for grant funding. Correct, exactly. Yep.
So maybe what we need to do is actually put it in the eligible improvements under a last bullet and just say projects that received
Building permits.
a building permit, that were issued a building permit after May, from May 1st. Okay.
And this may actually just want to be put under the eligible applicants rather than in that section. On page 1, you have eligible applicants. You may want to include in there those eligible applicants of who's.
I think that would be a great idea. Thank you, Eric.
Put them under eligible applicants instead?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, is there any other discussion?
Hold on one second. All right, I think that does it as far, we need to, we've made the motion to do that, now we need to vote on that change, and we're clear with the verbiage on it?
Can I just have one clarification? On the window and door replacement, after the conversation we had, was there any change to that, or just keep it as is?
No.
That was to keep
No,
it as is?
keeping it as is.
Keeping it as is.
And then we're going to add under eligible applicants, the projects that were issued a building permit from
May 1.
from May 1, 2021, would be invited to apply if they can meet the program submittal requirements,
Correct.
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Before we vote, I think we need to make sure there's no other amendments.
Correct. That would be correct, too.
And Jamie, do they want to add like for private circulation on that first bullet?
Hang on a second. Okay, and then, I'm sorry,
I mean, I don't know if there was an agreement on it, but that would be on the first bullet, after it says visible from public right of way
or
or private circulation.
private circulation. Do you need to say, do we need to say circulation drive or just private circulation,
We
period?
just use the sign code as private circulation.
Okay, so what Melissa is suggesting is under eligible improvements on that first bullet, that we further clarify it, and this is similar to what was done in the sign code update, that facade improvements, including painting, tuck pointing, and roof portions visible from the public right-of-way or private circulation would be visible, and that takes care of the case that Trustee Rainers brought up.
Okay. Perfect.
We do have that existing in, on Bell Road quite a bit.
Right, we do.
Okay, so everyone's had the discussion now, and we've got everything lined up over there, Janie? We've got everything
I've got
set?
it.
Okay.
Trustee
Sir, I'd like to say
Constantino
something.
So your motion would, you can do one of two things. You could make a motion to adopt project description as amended, all right? Or to make the amendments to the project description, or to adopt the ordinance with the project description as it's been amended. So I would suggest you first make a motion to amend the project description.
Which we did.
Has it been voted on?
No.
No.
It hasn't been voted on, but we made the motion to do so.
Okay. So you're going to make the motion to adopt those specific amendments to the project description. That should be voted on.
Okay.
Okay.
And actually, that hasn't been made yet. there's only been a motion to approve the ordinance.
Right.
What council's suggesting is there be a motion to amend the project description as discussed here. That would be first.
That's your first motion.
I will make that motion to make the amendment as read.
Okay, so.
I will second.
Well, the second right now is trustee Laha.
A second.
No, this is a separate item. This is just to amend the project description.
Okay.
All right.
But now don't we have to ask trustee Castellino if the amendment to it is okay?
Nope.
No, okay.
It's merely to adopt the ordinance. You're merely
right.
amending the project description.
Thank you.
Take the vote. Okay, well, you just don't know anymore.
This is just on the amendment to the project description.
Okay. Madam
Thank you.
Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so now we're back to ordinance number 21.
Aren't we back to the motion, though?
Yes, we are.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there a motion? All right, so it's trustee Consolino and trustee Laha. So now you're going back to the discussion again. Is there any other discussion?
I had something to say. Mine will be quick. I think I want to give a thanks to the CED committee for bringing this forward and creating it. I think it's a spectacular program for our businesses. It's a great way to improve, our the area, Homer Glen, and a big thank you to you guys.
Thank you.
I agree. I think it's wonderful, and it's nice to see that progress happening for our businesses. And for your attention to detail, Trustee Fialko.
Well done.
Well, it's a great program, and we'll see how successful it is this year. And maybe next year we could budget for more things and add more things that would be eligible. Let's see how the businesses come forward and let us know what they need.
Agree. Nice.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the Village of Homer Glen Emergency Operation Plan?
So move.
Second.
Trustee Rogers. All right, so
In
it's
stereo.
Render, and it is Laha. Discussion.
John, I know we talked about this a little bit during the presentation, but I think we need to kind of give credit where credit is due on this, and not only this, but the SOP, because I know there was a lot of people involved in creating this document. So I'm just curious, sir, if you could just let us, talk a little bit about the process of how this came about and who all was involved in it.
Sure. Well, in fall of 2019, the public safety officials, which is the representative from each of our fire districts, obviously Lieutenant Holly, there was a representative from the road district, and we sat down and we started redoing our EOP. We took a template that the county had provided us, and we were off to the races. We found out in very early spring of 2020 that the state had changed their requirements for the EOP, so we had to start over. And due to coming into the summer months and everything else, we postponed the update till we got into the fall of 2020. So then we took the new templates and went through it and started all over again. And we finished it in early spring, and we brought it to the board and for a workshop, and we went over it. And then we brought it to this board for a workshop, and we're looking for the approval of it, obviously. This has been, not saying a labor of love because it's a pain in the neck, but it helps everybody to have, it's better to plan for something ahead of time than try to figure it out afterwards. All of our public safety officials, as I said, were involved in this. The village was involved in it. So everybody's kind of on the same page. And I forgot to mention Joe, I apologize. Joe was involved in it as well. So everybody, there's, as you can see, there's many chapters in this book. We went through, everyone. We're unique in the fact that at the time we didn't have a public works. We don't have a fire department, municipal fire department. We have 5, fire districts that cover our village. We don't have our own police department. We have a contract police. So it was very unique to go through, and even with some of the templates that we had, to make everything Homer Glenable. So there you go.
And I know this all kind of, the push for this started, for most of you who weren't here, when the house exploded, and we were all kind of like, where do we go? What is our role as trustees? What do we do? So Keith Gray really took a hold of this and kind of ran with it and pushed it through and formed the committees and got Lieutenant Holly in the fire districts and everybody kind of saying, hey, we need to do this. So that kind of tells you how long these things take to put together, because that house explosion was so long ago, it seems like, and here we are today just voting on it, so.
Right, we had an EOP in place at that time. We've had an EOP in place since 06 or 07, but it just the updating of things and the changing of things, and the SOP, that event actually was the catalyst for the SOP. Oops. And so everybody would kind of know there wasn't specific, you do this, you do this, you do this in there. There is for the public safety people, and there is for certain village officials, but not for everybody. I did it again. And then, so that's where the SOP came from, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
And Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, approval of the mayor and the village board standard operating procedures, SOP number 17. Is there a motion to approve the mayor and village board operating procedure, SOP number 017?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve amended restated intergovernmental agreement by and between the Village of Homer Glen and the Homer Township Road District?
So
I'll make
moved.
that motion.
Second.
All right, everyone said it pretty much the same time, so let's go with, who?
It was
Rose?
Dan.
Dan.
Fialko.
It was Dan.
I know what your name is. Who seconded it?
Nicole.
Discussion.
I'd like to make one amendment to this document that we received today. One on page 3, it needs to begin on September 27th, 2021. That box or that line needs to be filled in. Then if we go to page 10, or actually page 9, that should, where it says attention, should say Ross Seckler, and then rsseckler@osmfm.com. The last amendment that I would have is on page 10 under remedies. We had talked about this twice that I can remember, and still the verbiage doesn't seem to be correct. Where it says, however, prior to filing any court action, the parties agree that any claim or dispute related to this agreement shall first be subject to arbitration, which shall be expedited by the parties to the extent possible. Now, unless Carrie or Eric could tell me that we can't use expedited arbitration, it should read, however, for one, filing a court action, we're not agreeing to go to any court action for one, so that should be stricken. And the parties agree that any claim or dispute related to this argument shall be subject to expedited arbitration, crossing out which shall be expedited by the parties to the extent possible. So that is how it was supposed to read originally. Now, is there anything that would prevent us or the township from going to expedited arbitration, Carrie? or Eric, do you know of anything that would prevent us from going to expedited arbitration?
No.
Which is a 90-day process and not a 2-year process, and not lawyers hammering it out for 3 years and doing court extensions or anything similar to that. So that definitely needs to be changed.
Well, if that's agreeable to the township and the highway commissioner,
Yes.
I imagine.
Well, we're actually the ones that are, this is before us. They would then have to approve that afterwards. But are we able to actually ask them now?
Yeah.
Mr. Portfolio, could you please address it?
I appreciate the fact that you're reading through that whole document. Yeah, expedited arbitration is fine with us. We don't have an issue with that. And as far as the starting date, something that has to be done is all of the sections of the IGA have to be executed before the starting date. So there's a lease in the back, I think it's Exhibit G, Eric?
Correct.
That has to be filled out and signed by the mayor and myself. And so there's some other blanks that have to be signed in the back of the IGA before we have a starting date. It would be nice to have it next week, but, you know, it takes time getting some of these things accomplished.
But you're okay with the amendment as I read it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So that was the motion to amend that with that verbiage. I don't know, was it written, did you write it down? Or do I need to say it once again? Here's the way I'm saying it should read. However, prior to filing, any court action should be stricken.
You clarify which paragraph you're on, because now
I am on remedy.
Strike that. Why would we strike
Last
that?
sentence.
Well, he's proposing an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement itself.
Right, but why do we have to strike however prior to?
We're saying prior to that sentence where we say however. He just wants to eliminate anything related to the court process. He wants it to be solely.
It eliminates the court process and brings it directly to expedited arbitration, which is a 90-day process.
I understand it.
Okay. It would say that the parties agree that any claim or dispute related to this agreement shall be subject to expedited arbitration. And then which shall be expedited by the parties to the extent possible would be crossed out.
Eric, do you want to redline that and I initial it while I'm here tonight, or would you like to send me a revised copy?
I'll send you a
to sign
revised
it again? And
I've got the signature. I'll send you the revised copy of the substance of the agreement, if that's
yeah, while I'm up here, Dan, there are two things, when you're done, I'd like to mention about the IGA.
Is the time now for that, or do we have to first make the...
Sure, there might be other amendments that come.
Right, there might be other amendments. Can we finish up here with the amendments to it, or does it involve making another amendment, though?
Well, I would like to say that this is a dynamic document. There's a couple of things in there that are going to change on a regular basis. The schedule of costs for labor and materials is going to change every year, obviously. Labor goes up, material costs go up. So the schedule that's referred to in the IGA, or what the road district would be paying to the village, will change. It will go up every year. So that schedule, it has to be understood, that's going to be constantly changing. And also the Exhibit A map, there's annexations that happen every year from municipalities in Homer Township, whether it's Homer, Glen, or Lockport. And so the map that's Exhibit A is going to be also changing. I did notice that there was a couple of annexations that were into the village that were not shown on that map, but this is the latest map we could get from the county GIS department. They only update it every couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I think it is. So we have to be cognizant of that fact that that's also a document that is not going to be held frozen in time. It's going to be dynamic and it's going to change. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that those two items, even though it's in the signed document, they're going to be having to be updated every year and looked at by the trustee.
Eric, is there something we need to do to this document to address Mr. Portfolio's concerns?
No, those are in there already. I think Mr. Portfolio is simply pointing those out to everyone to make sure.
Well, he's saying they need to be changed on a certain schedule.
That's provided for in the
Okay.
agreement.
All right, just as long as we've done everything we need to
Yeah,
do.
so in there it says every 4 years it should be revisited. If you want to change that to something closer.
No, what it says here is that for example, Exhibit A shall be updated from time to time by the district without the need for an amendment to reflect the then
Yes.
current roads.
Very good.
And then with regard to the payment and the village's cost that they're billing, said schedule may be updated from time to time by the village and become effective 30 days after notice to the district. So as those change, the village sends a copy to Mr. Porfilio, and 30 days later...
Sign off on it, and then that's the schedule. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the explanation. As far as amendments, that I'm through unless anybody else has an amendment to add.
Okay, I guess not. All right,
So right now, there's a motion to amend the intergovernmental agreement itself with those additions proposed by Mr. Fialco, Trustee Fialco.
and
And then that's a motion, and there was a second?
Well, no, we have to ask Trustee Castellino if it's okay with her.
It was Trustee Laha was actually the second.
Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
You made the motion,
Trustee
Trustee
Laha.
Fialco.
So you're doing this different from what you did in the other motion. You're asking that's just to amend the motion to include
All right, we're good
those.
then?
Good. Do you adopt those?
Yes, I do.
Great. So instead of doing it like previously, what we got here is a motion, a revised or amended motion to approve the ordinance for the intergovernmental agreement. Very good.
Roll call?
Waiting later.
Yeah.
all right, so now we're all set?
Well, I was just, if we're not voting on, we're just voting on the revision, and then we'll have discussion on the,
Correct. But I still have to get the
right.
agreement. So, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you. Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Fialco?
Aye?
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Aye. Steve, you want to throw one in there too?
Well, now we have to go back to the motion.
Now let's do the adopt. I thought we were doing it the other way, but that's all right.
Okay.
So the first motion that you just approved was to make the changes to the intergovernmental agreement. Now you're voting on the original motion to approve the ordinance that approves the agreement, just so we're clear.
Okay, can I have clarification of who made this, the second, the last motion?
Same as before.
Same as before.
Mr. Fialco, Trustee Fialco, and Trustee Laha.
Okay. Okay, so Trustee Rogers?
Oh, so we're not having any more discussion?
No.
Because I was just wondering,
Discussion asked at least.
I was just wondering if we wanted to hear from Matt or Brent or Pat Healy, if they had anything to add, if they had reviewed it before we vote on it?
Sure, I can touch on that. Staff worked with Eric in conversations with Commissioner Porfilio. I think that the language that provides for shared use in the agreement will allow it to work with the village. The equipment that is being transferred back to the road district will have a shared use for the village, which is necessary for us to maintain the additional roads that's part of this agreement. So I believe it will work. If there's any issues with it, we'll certainly bring that back to the village board for discussion and try and work any issues with the road district commissioner.
So both sides are happy.
Yes.
And I'd also like to say thank you to Road Commissioner Brent Portfolio,
Yes, thank you.
Supervisor Balich, the residents, and this whole board who worked so hard to make this happen. It wasn't easy, but it's finally, well, we got to vote on it yet, but I'm very proud of everybody and how hard we worked together to make this happen, and I thank everybody in this room for that.
Okay. Discussion's done. Madam Clerk, could you please call the last roll?
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Fialco?
Aye?
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
All right.
Praise God.
Is there any new business? Or wait, is there one more in here?
Yes. Right, old business.
Mr. Mayor, the old business item was on the agenda as an error. We weren't sure if the amended IGA would be on the agenda until late Friday, so we don't need to discuss that item.
Discussion of an intergovernmental agreement with Homer Township regarding township park properties.
Go ahead.
Okay,
We skipped through old business, did we?
that was the intergovernmental agreement.
Right. I do have something under old business.
All right, we'll get to it. We still have,
Yeah, that one we just approved that.
right. Right. Okay, so what do you want under old business?
Under old business, at the last meeting, we talked under new business, the lead line service replacement program under House Bill 3739, which is to replace lead pipes that carry the water as a service line to the houses. We discussed it a little bit. I'm just wondering if we had any direction that was given with that yet, Matt? And I had addressed the issue of possibly finding out the percentage of lead water pipes that we have in Homer Glen that would need to be replaced under that House bill. And just so everybody knows, this is a program, a grant program from the state of Illinois, which they're paying for it. And also, there's monies to be appropriation, future annual appropriations for this. So this is would be working with Illinois American Water and the village to get this type of problem resolved.
Sure, so I can provide just a brief update. Staff has reached out to Illinois American to see if they would share that information with us. As part of that House bill, providers or owners of transmission lines and have to submit their full inventories by sometime in 2024, so Illinois American Water would obviously have to do that. At that time, we're hoping to get some information before so we can prepare for that. So we're still waiting to hear back on that.
So are you saying we have to wait to 2024 to even start with the lead line replacement program? Or did they say that we can, with that money, we can start replacing the lines now? Or are you saying because...
I'm just saying that as part of that legislation that providers need to provide a inventory of their lead lines and lines to the state by 2024. I'm sure that I'm not exactly sure the details of the reimbursements can be done before that point, but obviously as we come to know where the lead lines are, I'm sure that we would be able to.
Did they have any information to provide you with where they gave you a percentage or any number? No.
Not at this time. I'll update the board when we get that figure.
Thank you.
Illinois American Water, they own the water rights here. They own everything on the ground. They own the infrastructure. It's not ours. So we have to...
Yeah, that doesn't change the possibility of them being replaced by the state of Illinois paying for it, though. I understand they own the distribution and the service lines and the sewer lines. So I understand that, but with this program, either way, for us to know the percentage of lead line services for water that we have is important to know and to get the process moving, to get the state to pay for it, whether it's, and I realize it's not through us, but it's through conversation between the village and Illinois American Water to get them moving.
Right. And I agree, but they're doing nothing but dragging their feet. So we'll have to look into it at a later time because they just put it off for another couple months. All right.
Sir, I had one more thing for business. I'm sorry. I just needed an update from Manager Walsh to see where we are on the salt issue, if you have any reports on that.
Sure. I'm glad you asked, Trustee Pesmino. So we do have one quote on my desk from a provider. We are hoping to have a second quote, but either way, there will be an item on the A&F agenda for October to recommend approval of that purchase. Hopefully we'll have a second option so we can compare the pricing, but then it will be on the board agenda for October 13th.
So just to be clear, we have no salt until October when the bid comes in?
No, we got some salt.
Well, we have between 600 and 1,000 tons in a current salt dome currently.
For whatever reason, a week from now we have a snowstorm, we have access to that.
We can take care of it.
Correct. It's in our salt dome right now, yes.
I have one question in addition to that. Purchasing the salt is going to be one part of the process. The second part of that process is going to be delivery. Are they telling you that there's any delay in deliveries? Because there's all kinds of problem with delivery trucks right now and people being able to get employees. Are they giving you any information? Yeah, you can purchase the salt, but are we going to get the delivery of the salt?
There's a strike.
Sure. The one provider that we talked to hasn't indicated anything of the sort. I will say that there are a number of municipalities and townships that are struggling to get their bids out on the salt this season for a number of reasons. But no, we haven't gotten that indication from the provider about the actual procurement of that salt.
Matt, who did we get the one quote on by?
This was Midwest.
Thanks.
Last year, we used an ag chloride blending with the salt. Is that what they provided a quote for? It worked well for the temperature.
Yes, that quote included treated and untreated. Yes.
With that purchase of the salt, is the plan to have the road district for the little bit that they have to do of any kind? Or is there any kind of agreement with them with salt at all? Or now with this IGA, they don't need that?
Well, we do the snow plowing and the maintenance of the roads for those 18 to 21 miles. So,
if they need assistance from us, if there's a really bad storm, of course, we would use some, and then we would pay them back.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other new business?
That's old business.
That's old business.
No, it's old business. No, we've already done that. All right. New business, we're talking about the Homer Township regarding the township park properties. Steve, you're going to have to talk to us about how this is working now.
I was at the park committee yesterday, and I got a lot of questions, and I think I cleared a lot of things up. You know, the IGA that the township signed and brought over here for you guys to look at and sign to make the deal go through, it doesn't show you getting the deeds at the time you sign it, because we have to follow different laws than the village. We have to have a meeting of the electors, and we have to put 14 days publication in the paper. And then once the meeting's over and the electors vote that we're allowed to sell or give away property, at that point, then we give the village the deeds. If the electors vote no, which I doubt, because I think the electors are pretty happy that it's happening, then the deal would just fall apart and go back the way it was. Homer Glen would not be on the hook. But I don't see that happening. Now, one of the things that came up at the meeting was the time that you guys do the budget in Homer Glen.
May.
Right, and so doing stuff right now is kind of an inopportune time for the village. So what we came up with was that the village can pass the IGA like it is, and then we'll do the special meeting right away so the deeds can transfer, but it won't happen until May when your budget starts again. So it'll be signed and ready to go, and the township will have already done the necessary things to make it happen and transfer the deeds, but it won't happen until May. So the township will keep taking care of the parks like we have, and in the meantime, there were certain things that was pointed out that we could probably fix, you know, to make it to the standards that the village has as opposed to the standards that the township has. So with that said, you know, I have no problem working with the village to change some of the stuff from what it is. Now, I went and looked at the parks today, and for the most part, they're in pretty good shape. You know, you look at Sandra Park, at the meeting, I had the impression like it was in bad shape, but I went there, it's by where Mr. Fialco lives by, and I went to his house and we walked over and looked at it, and the park is pretty nice. You know, it doesn't really look like it requires a bunch of work, but to make it conform to the way Homer Glen parks are, there's probably some little things that we have to change, and the township has no problem working with the village to try to change some of this stuff even before they take it over. So that's kind of an update as to how this is going to go down. So I'm hoping that the board would pass the IGA today, and then the township would do the special town meeting, and then the next step would be the final transfer in May with the deeds.
Well, to add to what Supervisor Belich is talking about is that we actually brought it to the committee and we addressed all of the concerns with the committee. And basically, we talked about funding and we talked about what it would take to bring these parks to the standard of what the village is going to require. So therefore, we decided that some of the, in Superintendent Robinson can tell you that some of the stuff could be done, needs to be done immediately, and there were projects that can be put off that could be done this year, next year, or whatever. So we decided that basically if we go ahead and approve the IGA, and also I would like to talk to John about the sports fields, because he basically gave us a rundown of everything that they do at the parks. And basically they take care of 90% of what goes on in the parks. So I think the consensus of the committee was that yes, that we need to take these parks on, because in the event that somewhere down the line that the township does be abolished, the parks are in our areas and we would get them anyway. So therefore, we tried to we're working with Supervisor Belich to maintain the parks until we can put a budget together to see where we're going to be in the coming years for the next year, for the next budget for next year, to see what it's going to take to bring these parks up to our standards. It's in the committee. The committee voted unanimously to take the parks. So
they were actually really excited for the opportunity, and
they were very excited.
Looked at it as a gift, pending solid funding, you know, and that was definitely something that kept coming up.
And I think with Supervisor Belich keeping the maintenance of the parks until our next budget, our fiscal budget, is going to really help us, because John and Steve could work together to address the problems that really need to be addressed at this point, and then we could see what we need to do moving on, you know, if we address one park at a time, but we want to bring the parks to the standard of the village.
And we also addressed staffing as well.
Yes, the staffing was another thing. We know right now that John does have some positions open and that it's been very difficult to fill those. So basically, allowing them to maintain the parks till May will give us some time to try to get more staff in. And another thing that was brought up at the committee, which Nicole and I forgot to touch on, was we had some concern from the pickleball people about the lights, because now they're saying that because there's no lights in the morning, a lot of people want to get up early and go play pickleball, and with the time change that they're not allowed to do that because it's too dark. So John did talk about the fact that it could be an adjustment, but there is an ordinance, so that we would have to address that in the ordinance before that could proceed.
The board would have to discuss and consider to make a variance.
Yeah, and John said it wouldn't be anything really difficult. It'd just be a matter of adjusting the computer for that hour or so, whatever they need for that time. Because he said if he waits until, he said what's happening now, the pickleball courts are so being used so frequently that even in the morning people are going before they go to work. So he said he wants to do the same thing, but when he gets there, tries to get there at 6, there's already people there. Right. So he said he's going to try and get there even an hour earlier. You know, he said, and he's got people that will be there an hour earlier. So, and that's basically what, you know, what we touched on. There's, you know, the land alone is very valuable for those parks, and I think you would be very foolish if we didn't take the parks. And the committee felt the same way.
I completely agree.
I have one more comment that I really should say. A lot of people are calling me up and they're saying, why are you giving, the word giving, the parks to the village? And the answer is we're not giving them anything that wasn't actually theirs anyway. Because those parks were all park donations for developments. So all the subdivisions that are built here prior to 2003, I believe, their park donations went to the township.
Well, and
now think about this, there's no others, look around here, all the cities around here, the cities have the parks or a park district. Homer Glen and Homer Township are the only ones that are different.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to make things right, and I'm giving the parks, if you want to use that term, to who actually should have got them to begin with. Because those parks belong to the subdivisions, and every one of those subdivisions are in Homer Glen.
And also, you know, it will increase our ability for recreational areas outside of Heritage Park. I mean, some of these parks have tennis courts, and yes, some of them need repair, but some of them have basketball courts. So I think some of the things that we cannot provide here, we can provide in other areas of the village.
It was also brought up the need for a soccer field. Homer Glen has no soccer fields, and you know, I think we're just trying to use this land for the benefit of majority of the residents here.
All of the, yeah.
I agree with the trustees. I think passing this opportunity up would be a huge mistake. I know a lot of people are concerned about the budget, you know, and as Trustee Rangers said before, you know, if we push this forward into May and we're kind of switching everything up and allocating things where they should go, there's also huge opportunities for corporate sponsorships, local businesses who want to contribute to the park system. I know I would like to contribute to the park system to get something going.
I'm gonna come knocking on your door on May. No, just kidding.
And we have, you know, wonderful sports organizations. We don't want to put them and displace them if this goes somewhere else. So I think that we should really consider this and once again, not pass it up because it would be crazy to do so.
And I also believe this is a huge opportunity for the village of Homer Glen to adopt these parks. The amount of money that they would be worth is, I don't know how we could even set a price on it. But I thank you, Supervisor Balich, for even making this offer and to present us with the park option. Thank you very much.
I would just ask that...
Thank you guys for all your hard work on this stuff, because I know it ain't easy, and you just passed the road thing, which was, you know, that for me, that was the biggest nightmare going. And I'm really happy that you guys did that, and thank you very much. And the parks are going to be the same thing. You guys are going to benefit tremendously. Everybody in Homer Glen will be happy with it.
I would just ask that the approved minutes from your meeting are part of the packet when we do review this and discuss it at a further date.
Matt, I have a question. Didn't we discuss a little over a month ago that it seemed a lot more affordable than we thought to maintain adding these parks? When we were doing the RFPs and grass cutting and fertilizer?
Some aspects of it would be. I think we would definitely need additional staff, so that would be an additional cost. So I'll do my best to have a more comprehensive summary of those costs and the immediate costs that Supervisor Balich kind of explained that need to be done, and then maybe some projections for over the next couple of years, because some of our existing parks and playgrounds will need repairs in the coming years too.
Okay. Thank you.
Matt, is there any way that we can get this on the agenda for the next meeting? I mean, we do actually have an analysis from John Robinson for the parks. I mean, I think moving forward, we're going to have plenty of time to figure out what it's going to cost and try to hire somebody. But if we could, can this go on the...
Quick question, do we have an IGA yet?
I haven't seen it, so I was just going to ask Supervisor Balich if you can send that to...
I don't have it.
No, you already have it. We gave it to you probably month and a half, 2 months ago.
Yeah, I think Christina...
We signed it, our board voted for it, we signed it, and we brought it to you guys. And what I'm hoping happens is that you vote for it. Evidently, it must be lost somewhere in La La Land, but next month it'll come back. 2 weeks from now it'll be there. You'll be able to see it.
We were given a copy of the IJ.
Yeah. We already passed it at our board and we gave it to you guys.
Right, so we have it.
I just want to make sure I have it. I haven't seen it yet.
We'll send you.
Thank you.
We'll get it to you again.
The minutes from your meeting won't be voted on by the next one, will it?
I actually have a copy of the minutes from the meeting. I got them from Amy yesterday.
But I mean, your committee has to vote on them and make sure that there's not.
They did vote. They
No, she means approve the minutes.
Oh, approve the minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, because they did unanimously vote. We did have a vote, yeah.
We also are waiting on the, not only, we did the inspection notice of 5 of the parks, but we're also waiting for an inspection notice on the complex.
Right.
So.
Right. And like I said, they will, and what Andrew stated, he has stated over and over again that they do provide 90% of the maintenance of those sports fields.
I just want to add something quick. If you have issues with staffing for the parks, for maintenance, since the road district, you should take care of the parks. If we have available staff and equipment to help you guys out, by all means, let us know. Okay? It's about helping each other out. And I know if you're running into issues with labor, which everybody is running into, even Taco Bell isn't open these days. But if you're running into issues with that, let me know, okay?
John Robinson, do you have anything you'd like to add? John?
So John?
John Robinson, do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay.
I want to thank John for his hard work on that inspection. We kind of threw it on him really quickly, and he did a really great job with it.
And actually the members of the committee as well, because they did go out and they did look at the parks and they brought their feedback to us.
I do actually want to give Parks Committee members props as well. They actually did footwork and were asked to go to each and every one of the parks, and majority of them did, even when they wrote up their suggestions, and I thought that was really beneficial for me to see.
Can I add something, Mayor, please? I do think it's really nice to see all of you guys working together on this, including Supervisor Balich. I think this is going to be a really amazing thing. This may be premature for me to say that, but I'd really like to see you guys work together on making one of these parks a more inclusive park. It would be great to see.
We have plans for the big park for that.
Oh, good. That's music to my ears. And I do know that Trustee Laha did invite the special needs, the AAC committee and the park committee to work together at one of these meetings, and I think that would be a great start. And I do think all the trustees should attend, because it does touch each and every single committee if you really think about it. So I do give you guys all kudos for that, so thank you.
Andrew, is there anything that you'd like to add? Does anybody have any questions for Andrew for the Homer sports teams? Okay. Okay. So are we going to add this to the agenda, Matt? Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Again, the only issue is I want the minutes voted on. So, and we won't have that by the next one. There's no way for your committee to go through your minutes from that meeting and vote on them.
Maybe we could just forward them to the committee. I could forward them, or we could have Amy forward them to the committee for approval.
Yeah.
Okay, because the minutes are already done.
Okay.
All right, next would be discussion for the removal of the parks and facilities maintenance from the Public Works Department. And I'm pretty sure we've got, John, do we have that straightened out to where we have the park money?
Mayor, I don't think it had anything to do with the money. I mean, we all know what is funding the parks. We know that. Our main concern was that the programs are growing. The park is growing. And, I did a lot of research and actually went to other parks, other villages and cities, and in none of their park districts or park facilities or parks and recs are under the umbrella of their Public Works Department. Now, there are instances where there has to be some coordination between the two departments to work on festivals and special projects and things like that. But there is nothing that says that a park district or a park recreation department has to be under Public Works. Now, what we brought to the committee, we asked the committee, we proposed many questions to them. And basically, they all felt the same. They felt that the amenities of the park are going to be growing and that it's going to require more, more concentrated effort from myself, our committee, Amy, and Sue. So we feel that we would prefer that the Parks and Recreation Department, which we would like to create in the next coming months, would be a standalone department.
Well, here's one thing that we should figure. And God forbid something like this happens again with the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think it would be great to get the Public Works and the park people, get them all together, and they both learn how to do each other's job.
And yeah, and we don't have a problem with that. The cross-training, there is no problem because a lot of the other job descriptions and responsibilities that I read they did say that the Parks and Recreation Department has to coordinate with the Public Works Department for special events. And for activities and things that go on throughout the village. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with the Parks Department being trained to work with Public Works, or Public Works shouldn't have a problem working with the Parks Department. Now, I will say, I mean, I have the utmost respect for the Public Works Department, but it was very difficult to get them to work with us for the Homerfest. There was always an excuse. I mean, and I myself talked to them many times, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or a good thing, but they were part of the village, and I think that all of our departments have to work together.
Yeah.
And it's not just, but that doesn't mean that it has to be a part of the Public Works Department. It should be its own standalone department because it is growing. And, we want to, there's things that we want to do moving forward that we prefer that it's its own standalone department.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we could possibly have 14 parks by the end of the month here, and I think this is a standalone entity, and I don't know if you said this or not, but the committee did vote unanimously for that, in favor of.
They did vote, and in years prior, before we had a Public Works Department, the Parks and Recs, and facilities maintenance was always a standalone with its own revenue source. So we're not asking to fire anybody or do anything to anybody. All we want to do is just reclassify it back to its own and just go on from there.
Well, they still can do that even working together.
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes, wintertime, they're not as busy as what.
Right, exactly. And yeah, I mean, they're all paid. They're all paid they all work for this village. So there should be no reason why one department can't help out another department when.
And I also like to say, just talking to the people that are directly involved with the parks and recreation and planning, they can use a little bit of help too. And I think if we become separate and we do our own standalone, and I think that actually will benefit them in the long run.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'd like to have this on the agenda for the next meeting, Matt, under legislative items.
I think that's the 13th of next week.
Will do. Just clarification, what exactly do you think that motion will, just the creation of a new department? Or
can you?
Will that motion be the creation of a new department or the separation of the?
I would say separation of the Public Works and the creation of the Parks and Recs Department.
Okay.
Will you have that survey done by then that we've been asking for?
The survey's not even, they haven't even started the survey. I had this conversation with Matt, and they're not even moving forward with it.
You're not doing a survey, or?
We have a survey that has been drafted. It has not been distributed to staff members yet.
So we should maybe be able to have that by the next meeting, or whenever they want to vote on this, the 13th?
We could do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We've got that all set. Executive session. The next item is executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session for purposes of discussing executive session minutes, pending and potential litigation, collective bargaining, and personnel?
So move.
Trustee Pasmino, I need a second.
I'll second.
Second.
Trustee Laha.
I think it was Trustee Consolino.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Trustee Consolino.
Sir, I'd also like to request that Legislative Council join us for executive session.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there? Yeah. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Pasmino.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers. Aye. Trustee Laha.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Fielko?
Aye.
Okay, thank you for coming out, everyone.
It's freezing in here.